Welcome to the Saltcast, a place where sailors tell their personal stories, ranging from the ordinary to the extraordinary. Listen to the real-life experiences, challenges, and triumphs of those who serve. Disclaimer, the views and opinions presented herein are those of the author and do not necessarily represent the views of the DoD or its components. All right, so we can roll right into it. Yeah, I recorded an episode on the ship. I did it in the PAO office, but that's probably not going to be the future location to record because there's a not used zipper line in there. So if that ever gets back up and running, obviously it'll be a secure space, so won't be able to do it in there. So the TV studio is probably, yeah. But
I think there's also a zipper line in the TV studio.
Is there?
Yeah, we had one in the PAO shop, the media shop, and TV studio. We had 3 zipper computers.
TV studio?
Yeah. We had.
Why
ours
would
on,
you have
like,
a zipper line in the
far
TV
right.
studio?
I know. Not a good call. But you know who
Definitely
my
not.
boss was.
Oh, yeah. Good point. So anyways,
Yeah, man.
welcome with that note on. Welcome to the show. This is now called Saltcast, the Saltcast. I've run through about 3 names, but I think we're finally set on this one. We got the best brand so far, and that's what we're going to roll with. What do you think of it?
It's ironic because you're getting out of the Navy.
Why is that ironic, though?
The salt. Well, are you salty?
Oh, yes.
Or-
Nope. Yep. I see what you do. Yeah. Yeah, it is a little ironic. And I kind of intended it that way. Like the other names I was thinking of were like Sea Salty or Sea Salt and Scuttlebutt. Those are like some of the other name options I was throwing around.
It's too Navy.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought as well.
Yeah.
So here we are,
I like it.
the Saltcast.
Need a rock salt lamp.
Oh, yeah. You want to get me one as another deployment gift, even though you already got me this dope whiskey?
Yeah, don't take that with you.
All right. Well, how about you tell me, even though I already know you, and anybody else who might listen to this, who you are?
Okay. My name is Gabe Wahl.
Gabriel's your full name,
Or
right?
Gabriel, yeah.
Yeah.
You can call me Gabriel Julian Wahl, the first,
Wow.
if you want.
First.
No, I'm 26. Just turned 26 in November. I'm a twin, so I have a twin sister as well. She just turned 26.
Also a very cool person.
She's all right.
Friendly reminder, eat the mic.
Eat the mic. I'm from Orange County, California. Grew up in Laguna Niguel, Dana Point area. My dad's a veterinarian, so I always like to bring that up because I feel like that shaped who I am.
I don't think you've ever told me that. That makes a lot of sense now. The stars are aligning.
Yeah. Yeah, science and biology and just that sort of thinking is what I grew up around constantly. Also taking animal medicine. That's why I'm so healthy.
Taking animal medicine.
Yeah, my dad's a veterinarian, so he can write prescriptions.
Wait, so you injected medicine designed for animals?
I didn't inject.
Digested?
I don't think I injected anything. I definitely digested a lot of topical ointments. I used my dad's X-ray machine a lot.
That's cool.
Because I also played sports growing up and just did stupid things, so I got hurt a lot.
Nice.
I feel like I scratched my corneas like more than a kid should. So he also.
How many times did you scratch your corneas?
Probably like 3 or 4.
How are you not blind?
I don't know. They suck. It feels like you got sand in your eye, but there's just a scratch.
Right.
So I remember like multiple times sitting on his like dog operating table and having him put like almost like a litmus like tab thing on my eye, but it would leave like an ink, and then with a blue light you could see the ink, or you could see like if you got scratched.
Dude, that sounds very painful and uncomfortable.
Yeah, I have a lot of injuries. But yeah, anyway, lots of travel to the Caribbean, to mostly the Caribbean. I guess the Caribbean's so large and there's so many islands and countries that my dad is a scuba diver and just big fan of nature and I guess the Caribbean culture. We went to a lot of islands growing up, almost every summer, mostly scuba diving trips, which I also got certified And then another injury, scuba diving in St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a freshman in high school. Still today, like don't know what happened, but I have 100% tinnitus in my right ear after scuba diving.
So you like blew out an eardrum or something?
Something.
Yeah.
It wasn't painful, but I did something to it. Also hold off on publishing this podcast until after I get out of the Navy and I get my VA claim for hearing loss.
Should told me that before we started recording.
No, but it's funny though, because I actually have had significant hearing loss after deployment. So get ready for that. I'll give you some tips on like maybe doing some mitigation techniques for not having impacts to your hearing.
It's already impacted, man. Being in
on a month,
an aircraft,
or in a month,
flight school, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
Well, it could get a lot worse.
Sure.
In the next 5 months.
Oh yeah, at the end of Com2X, the last day before we pulled in after the squadron flew off, they did a is it supersonic or hypersonic when they break the sound barrier? Supersonic. Yeah, they did a supersonic flyby.
Yeah.
And
that delayed like explosion.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah.
Not good for the ears whatsoever.
Were you wearing Ear Pro?
I was, but like the
shitty
insert ones.
Yeah.
And so the first one went by and I was like covering my ears on top of it. But then one of our MCs, they got in a video of the first one going by. Mm-hmm. And so we were like looking at it on his camera. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, look up. And another one flies by, another boom right on top of us as nobody's prepared for.
Yeah.
Because it came from a different direction. And yeah, that one felt a little different.
Dude, those are so cool.
Super cool.
Happened like, I don't know, 4 or 5 different times on deployment.
Really?
Yeah. Because hopefully, I mean, you'll probably have like another air demonstration type of deal. Mm-hmm. If you have like an ambassador to the United States on board, or a foreign dignitary or something, or if you do RIMPAC, you'll definitely have more opportunities probably to see supersonic flybys. I even saw an A-10. Yeah.
Where was there an A-10?
Yeah, it was during RIMPAC actually.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
It was during RIMPAC and we were underway like doing, whatever you do in RIMPAC out in the water. And I just remember like, because for us as PAOs, which went on a far tangent from describing who I am, a lot of distinguished visitors, a lot. During RIMPAC, that's like 90% of your job. And then you like help with the photo X at the end.
Yeah.
But most of it is really just,
herding all the cats,
which means being a glorified tour guide for an aircraft carrier for various people who want to see the ship underway. But yeah, I saw an A-10 and it was super cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those things are cool.
Yeah, I'm like, our jets are cool, but like an A-10 is undeniably cooler.
They just look badass. Yeah, for sure. Sad that they're going away.
Yeah.
RIP. Anyways, yeah, we did get off on a tangent there. So aside from all your injuries growing up,
and more to this day,
Well, that's on you now at this point. You're in your mid-20s still playing rugby, so I don't feel bad for you anymore.
Well, I was thinking about the dog bite, but let's go back.
Jesus, dude. All right. So what other influences did you have growing up that started leading you down the path towards becoming a naval officer?
So that's what this podcast is about.
It can be whatever you want it to be about.
Yeah, it's just so funny because I don't think anyone in my family, within my household, and then a degree of separation away would have expected me to become a naval officer.
Yeah.
I was definitely on the path towards being, who knows, like a travel blogger. Or like,
I think we all wanted to do that.
Yeah, just like being a journalist, blogger guy that somehow like actually makes money and is able to sustain that. I mean, today that would be freaking cool.
Very cool.
But I'm trying to think like,
when did the idea first enter your head? Like at what age or at what point in your life?
Well, I think something in terms of like continuity, if I can think back long enough, that definitely was a factor into me joining the service was my fascination with history. And I think probably being of Jewish descent as well and having family members that experienced the Holocaust plays a part in that. And then I do have relatives who served in World War II. I don't know about anything before that, but I know for sure World War II. I had a grandfather who was an anesthesiologist, so an medical officer in the Army, and he was stationed in Germany during World War II.
Wow.
And then my other grandfather, my mom's dad, was in the Navy as an airman, probably aviation, like ordnance guy.
Okay.
He only did 4 or 5 years, and he was on the USS Oriskany. That's now like a coral reef somewhere.
Yeah. One of those ones that they blew up with that atomic bomb test or something.
And then, so I think having some of that, like in my family, we weren't like overly patriotic of a family growing up, but just some of that, like, I don't know, service to the community and, like blue collar sort of, flavor to both sides of the family. Cause my dad's side of the family was predominantly Jewish and in LA at that time, after World War II, and my grandfather became a doctor. And fun fact, he was Elvis Presley's doctor until he died.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, so I actually do have Elvis Presley's. I'm sure he had a ton of them, but I have one of his alto saxes.
Alto, what is that?
Saxophone.
Oh,
like nice. The actual instrument. So I don't know if it was Elvis's or it was from his band, but Elvis gave it to my grandfather, and then it just got passed down. So I learned to play the saxophone in like 6th or 7th grade when everyone in California is forced to play an instrument. So I played the sax and loved that. Still have it.
So your grandfather was Elvis's doctor, though, huh?
Yeah, at a stage in his life. Yeah, towards the end.
I want to make a bad joke, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, I kind of want to know it now.
He must not have been that good of a doctor.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, we all know like Elvis's lifestyle.
We do. I'm totally kidding.
But yeah, and then back to the history thing. Yeah. I've always loved military movies. I've always loved military shows. Honestly, it's probably a problem. Probably not healthy.
I mean, I would say most young men tend to be attracted to them. They're super cool. Like objectively, they're hella entertaining.
And the video games, like I don't know if it's our generation, but the introduction of like Halo and Call of Duty at like being anywhere between like an 8 and like a 15-year-old.
Yep.
Like, I don't know. And then all of those movies, and then throughout us growing up till now, there's only been more and more, and then including Band of Brothers, like all that stuff. And it trickles down to our coaches playing sports, and it trickles down to us. Yeah. So there's definitely been factors like all along the way. I never thought it was something I wanted to do. Yeah. I remember because growing up in South Orange County, I'm pretty close to Camp Pendleton. So I knew a lot of Marine Corps dads. And, I played with a lot of their kids, playing football, playing baseball, and rugby too. And I remember like being or graduating high school, and there were like 3 or 4 guys from my football team that enlisted in the Marine Corps, like right out the gate. And I just remember like thinking that was so stupid. I was just like, why? Yeah. Why would you do that? And like,
why did you think it was stupid?
At the time, I was like, why do you want to die? Like literally, because people were being sent over to Iraq at that time. Like,
I mean, we graduated
pretty quickly.
High school. Do we graduate the same year? I graduated in
15.
Yeah, same time.
So it was kind of towards, it was scaled down, but all of those guys that joined went to Iraq. Yeah. In Afghanistan, all of them. And like within a year, and I was like, yo, I'm like just drinking and playing beer pong at San Diego State. Right. And I know people that are shooting bazookas at people, like, just nuts. So I thought I was really dumb. And I just didn't see that as a path for me at that time.
So this is going into college. Still no inkling that you would join at all?
No, none. All right. None whatsoever. I wanted to be a physical therapist and like athletic training and PT at the time. And then bio was hard. And then chem was hard.
Chemistry sucks.
Playing college rugby and rushing a fraternity was hard. So all of those things. The grades suffered. I didn't know at the time that a C- wasn't passing in college. I was like, what do you mean? I got a C. And they're like, no, you have to retake this. I had no idea.
Oh,
that was the first class I've ever had to retake. Like, for anyone that ever listens to this, like, I'm not stupid. Like,
Can't confirm.
I had a decent GPA, like 3.8 in high school, and played a ton of sports and a lot of volunteering things and whatnot. And I also like never fully tried because I have a twin sister that's just better than me at like academics. Really? So I was like, I don't need to do that. Like, I don't need to compete. I'll just be me.
She's the smart one. Yeah.
I'm the more well-rounded one. But nice. Yeah, no inkling until I'll just fast forward until journalism and public relations became my field of study at San Diego State. And then after that, I've always been community service minded. And I, at the time, wanted to do that function, that communication function and storytelling function in the environmental sustainability space, or for sports, or for like a brewery, or, rock climbing. I think everyone kind of gets the vibe now.
Just checking all the wickets, man.
Like, the word is granola. I wanted to do storytelling for that. Like, if you could, at the time, if you could give me a internship at REI, like, I'd probably never leave that company. Or Patagonia, like, you name it.
But see, that's the cool thing. Sorry to interrupt you, but just kind of like, interjecting a bit here with a thought. That's the cool thing about the military, right? Is it's very homogenistic in a lot of ways, but it's also incredibly diverse. We have people with vastly different backgrounds and vastly different interests and hobbies and perspectives on the world. So I think yours is very unique. It's probably more unique than the average, stereotype, if you will, of the military, but it's still cool that it exists. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that was definitely a recruiting message as well from some of my mentors in college, in that I do bring that unique.
They're like, you can change everything.
Exactly. Like,
we need people like you.
You could be the change that you seek, that, we need within at least our public affairs community, or the Navy, or the DoD at large, which like isn't too far from the truth.
No, it's
when it comes to like our job and how we do have an ability, although I think it's very rare, to impact senior leaders that do make those decisions, policy wide. But back to like, when did PAO for the Navy become like a serious thing or option for me? I've always been very practical. And through this, I think it's called an allegory. I remember when I was, to make my point, when I was like, I don't know, 14 probably. Yeah. I remember my dad asked me if I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, because I played Little League every single year, and I loved baseball, and I wasn't bad. And he'll still tell the story that I looked up at him and told him, like, I love baseball, but I'm not good enough to be a Major League Baseball player. So no, I don't want to be that. That's fine. And then I guess I went off on a list of like, I was like, who, not even a list. There's like 2 people probably ever. I was like, how many Little League baseball players from our Little League have made it to the pros?
Yeah.
None. Literally none. And I'm like, not the best one here.
Interesting. So even at 14, you had that
practical. I was just like logically,
not a dreamer, huh?
I think there's like, I have a balance of like, what I'm looking for and what I think is also attainable.
Sure.
And, there's also lots of aspirational or motivational people that I listen to or am exposed to through all the various social media channels of, or that give me that aspect of like, hey, like, you have to swing in order to hit the ball. Like, you can't just not swing.
Right.
But I was looking for that REI job, that microbrewery job, that whatever, or going to a what they call boutique PR agencies in San Diego, because it's not like a huge hub for public relations firms, which is perfect for me because that means they probably deal with a smaller clientele list. And I was like, cool, let me find the one that's like granola PR, which didn't exist. Maybe it should.
Maybe one day you can start it.
Yeah. And I just wasn't landing any internships at all, no matter the letters of rec, the resume, the hard work, the creativity, the whatever. Like I just wasn't landing any internships that actually interested me.
Yeah.
And even the public service one, I tried to get a Bureau of Land Management internship. Didn't get that either. I happened to get a fellowship. It was my plan B for like something to put on the resume. I think my junior year of college in the summer. Because prior to that, I was like a bar back at a hotel and playing rugby. Like that was it.
Yeah.
But I got a scholarship, or what they call a fellowship, to go work and live and volunteer in Cambodia for an NGO, a non-governmental organization. So I got to do that for, I think it was about 3 months during the summer. Wow.
I don't think I knew you did that.
Yeah, it was freaking awesome. It was my first time in Asia and Southeast Asia, and I was like, sign me up, you know? Also, it was free to me, right?
Yeah.
And I had applied through this fellowship program through the San Diego State like liberal arts college. I had applied for like the journalism and video production like job slot, and for like that function specifically. When I got to the NGO, which was the legal aid of Cambodia, they thought I was IT.
Oh no.
Like this.
Oh no.
And there's a huge language barrier. Like no one spoke English except for one guy. Yeah. And he was like a UN law intern who was like doing big, powerful things at like the big law house in Cambodia and like traveling around. It was never there at the office.
Right.
So like the first week or two, I was just like trying to explain to them I can't fix their Wi-Fi.
That is hilarious, man. You, a journalism major, just trying to communicate with these Cambodians about your lack of IT knowledge. That's fascinating.
It was awesome. I ended up like getting them to understand, and forging like a pretty good relationship with that office. It was a great time. I loved it.
That's awesome.
But you know, I still never had like a legit internship like in college, and like trying to get out of college and being like, well, what do I do now?
So basically Navy was an act of desperation is what I'm hearing.
It was, but I had one more step before that.
So this is summer going into senior year now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I ended up caving on like the agency thing, which is like, that's like the ticket to like getting a lot of money quicker.
Sure.
Out of college. So instead, like during senior year, I was a public information officer intern for the city of Lake Forest, city government, local, pretty close to my parents' home. So I commuted to San Diego State, which was a pain in the ass.
Ooh,
yeah,
from
it was
Orange
like
County?
an hour and a half, each way. Yeah, it was pretty trash.
How often did you have to go to campus?
A couple times a week.
Yikes.
Yeah,
sounds
and
rough.
I got paid like $13 an hour at the city of Lake Forest, where the full-time guy was getting over $100K, and I was like, well, what is going on?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and basically all I did was help the city of Lake Forest understand what we're doing about homeless.
Nice.
It was fascinating. I don't think anything's changed in like 6, 7, 8 years.
Checks out.
Yeah. But that was like a good, you know, at least it was a public information, public affairs relations sort of legitimate internship. Good stepping stone. And then I was like, sick. I'm going to be a PAO for the United States Forest Service, the Fish and Wildlife, for literally anything under Department of Ag or the Interior or Energy. And you can't get those jobs unless you're a veteran.
Really?
You just can't.
Okay.
You can't, like, it's hard enough for people within the federal government to get those jobs. To be just a dude with, like, unless you want to take a GS7 and get paid like $4 an hour and go live in, I don't know, like Ohio,
Hey.
you're just not going to get a job.
Yeah.
So after talking with my mentor at the time, and like I exhausted all the options that made sense to me, and I was like, dang, maybe I should check out this Navy thing. It's pretty good money, pretty good experience for 4 years. Get paid a lot of money, get to do some travel. Not a lot of money, but like more than my counterparts coming out of college for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a challenge. I like being physical. So I looked forward to OCS. I actually wanted it to be harder. You know, I was like, I thought I was going to be more, you know, I just thought it was going to be more fun. It was like more academic than I was expecting, and more like memorization, which I have a horrible memory. So it just like wasn't fun. It's just cold and not fun.
Yeah. You in a winter, right?
Yeah. It was in Rhode Island, January to April.
Yeah. Northeast winters, man. Especially for a
snow
Cali
day.
boy like you.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. But yeah. And then I had 2 like shadow days, I guess. One with a lieutenant at the time that was at the SEAL group, Naval Special Warfare Group 1.
Oh, really?
So I got to tour.
Yeah, so that's a huge benefit that you probably had, though. Obviously, going to school in San Diego, having a huge exposure to the Navy.
Yeah.
Is that?
And I won't name my mentor, but
Oh yeah, she
knows everyone.
She has deep inroads to the Navy PAO community.
Yeah, deep. And there was actually an assignment. I guess this is kind of like maybe like the real start. There was an assignment in my junior year where you had to job shadow a public affairs or public relations practitioner that's been in their job for like at least 3 or 4 years or whatever it was, whatever her number was.
Yeah.
And I remember at some point, like, I don't know if she brought it up to me or if she had dropped it as like an opportunity to the class, but I was like, I want to go hang out with the guy that's a PAO for SEALs. That sounds fucking cool.
Yeah.
So I did that, and like wrote the press release or the article, whatever the product was that was desired after the shadow. And I actually met Chief Chan.
Oh, nice.
He was the chief, he was the MC1 there at the time,
Nice.
which was pretty neat actually to see what
So
he
you were
was
doing this as a college student?
Yeah, I was a junior.
Wow.
Walking around in like a polo shirt and had like, you know, an LT walking me around at the time. And I was like, this is sick. Like, like, can I
So
try
that's
the
really
O
where
course?
the seed was laying.
Kind of. I mean, after that, I like didn't really think about it again. It was just like an assignment.
Yeah.
And a cool experience. I was like, yeah, it's not for me. Still want to be a Forest Service PAO.
Yeah.
And then after exhausting all those options, I ended up having like another shadow and like tour with our current admiral of the community. At that time, he was a captain.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was probably instrumental as well in like creating a positive outlook on what a career could look like, even if it was 4 years, and having that be accepted that like, I don't know if I want to stay in for 4 years was positive. And I was just like, yeah, like, you know what? I think I can do this. And then, I just kind of sent the application.
Nice. And then you got accepted.
So I did have to wait because of COVID.
COVID
Got postponed. So that was a pain in the ass. But
Damn,
I did get accepted.
Fucked up everything, man.
Yeah.
Really did. So I'm curious though, obviously you had a little bit of exposure prior to coming in, and then you kind of just talked about the things that appealed to you about joining the Navy, but what were your preconceived notions of the military and of being a naval officer coming in, and then how did those change, or have they changed since?
Well, at the time, I think I was pretty like, I can't think of the word. I listened to a lot of Jocko Willink at that time. Like during
Jocko Willink is the U.S. Navy.
During like COVID-19, I was like, well, I have one purpose in life, and it's to get selected for OCS and then make it through OCS. So I listened to a lot of Jocko. I had a buddy who was an EMT at the time, training to be a firefighter with also aspirations of being a pararescueman for the Air Force.
Yeah, PJ.
PJ.
Nice.
So, and he's still my best friend, but besides you, Nick.
I was going to say.
And I don't know, both of us were just like, we're just cut from the same cloth. We're very different, but we're cut from the same cloth and work really hard and have the similar aspirations and listen to a lot of the same people. And, you know, I just did a lot of stuff to get physically and mentally prepared for OCS. And I thought that's what it was going to be. I thought like it was going to be hard. Be the Navy? I thought like Jocko's experience was going to be the Navy.
So you thought you were going to Buds?
Well, like I knew it wasn't going to be like, I'm a public affairs officer, and like I knew that was my designator going in, and like I knew I wasn't going to be carrying a gun or like, you know, doing anything super physical, but I'm still a naval officer and I still have responsibilities to carry out as a leader and as a role model. But I don't know, I thought I was going to like be, I think the biggest thing for me was like, you think of I thought of the Navy at the time as like this huge brotherhood and sisterhood. And that all of the people that you're going to be with are going to be just like your absolute best friend / like the guy or girl next to you in the foxhole kind of thing. I mean, it's also probably fed from all the movies and the shows I've seen
100%
over time. And I joined the Navy at the time with the mindset of like, I want to be with the best. I mean, that's also like a Navy SEAL thing. But in terms of public affairs as well, the Navy, like for the longest time, the Navy has done it the best. Like we have the best public affairs officers out of all the services. So at the time I was like, I want to be the equivalent of a Navy SEAL, but in the public affairs realm. And I just carried that notion throughout all aspects of training and learning and growing as a human being. I mean, that's pre-PAO things, but it's just like my personality. And I was just, I don't know, expecting people to be better, you know? And the reality is that there are some like that. And there are some that it's a scale, it's a spectrum. And it truly just became like, wait, no, this is just like the rest of the world. Like this is the rest of the country. It's just another space of people working.
It's another huge corporation with all the same issues that any big company has, right? I think the military, kind of going back to what you're saying as a kid, being indoctrinated to all the video games and like all your coaches in various sports are referring to military this, military that. We got to be like them. Like there's this huge pedestal that the military has put on in our culture in the United States, which is great for us in the military, right? Like I think we get a lot of undeserved praise and gratitude for it, which is nice, right? Like nobody's going to argue that it's not nice to have that, but it is a little bit undeserving, I think. And I want to be careful here because obviously there are people who have done things in the past that are very deserving of.
You're just talking about you and me.
No. I know. Yeah, you and me. But like the people in right now, right? But obviously what we're doing is carrying on a legacy, and that legacy was built upon people doing things that are very worthy of admiration and praise. However, the actions of the few have been extrapolated to the majority in a very just inaccurate way. Like there's this perception that you had clearly that the military is full of elite human beings doing elite things all the time, which is just not the case. And to your point, coming into that with that preconceived notion and then having the reality of it slap you in the face can sometimes be a little disheartening. And that's kind of the purpose of doing stuff like this. Like I want to be able to tell people what it's really like, get to the, you know, the core of it, if you will.
The nuts and bolts.
The nuts and bolts.
Or how they like to say how the sausage is made.
How the sausage
so
is.
Gross.
That phrase is used so much in Navy public affairs.
It's so weird.
It's insane.
Why sausages?
Maybe not even public affairs, the Navy in general.
We don't even serve sausages on board. I don't.
And I've never heard that saying anywhere outside the Navy. It makes sense, but it is weird.
Yeah. It's literally just shoving shit in a tube.
Yeah. It is. But anyways, back to my point. The other problem with us being put on such a pedestal is that I think it gives our leaders this sense of entitlement and this sense of righteousness that is just not, it's not productive and it's not helpful, because when you're heaped all this praise by the general public who really has no idea what the fuck we do, right? Like less than 1% of the American population has served or serves currently in the military, which means 99% of the population has no fucking clue what it's like, right? Or if they do, it's secondhand knowledge because they have a brother or sister, a mother or a father, right? So they kind of have an idea, but still, like what we were talking about earlier, you really don't know what it's like until you've been through it. And so because we have this I don't know, again, like praise from a lot of the outside world upon us, a lot of our leaders are unwilling to adapt. And I think there's going to come a time where eventually, the curtain is going to get pulled to the side, right? And like our dirty laundry is going to get aired to the point where it seriously affects our reputation. And if we don't adapt and we don't innovate quicker than what we're currently doing, I think it's going to really come back to bite us in the ass down the road. What do I mean by that? I don't know. Like I could get into a lot of specifics, but in general, I think that it's a big problem and it's only getting worse because we now have adversaries in the world that are catching up with us in terms of capabilities, and we're not innovating fast enough. We're not willing to listen to people who have differing opinions, such as yourself, right? Like we just talked about, you're not the stereotypical kind of person that comes in the military, right? And you have ideas that are different and unique. And there's part of that that's necessary in the military, right? Everybody does have to fall into line to a certain extent if you're in a combat environment, right? Yeah. But for the most part, right, when we're talking about making our Navy better, which is something that our leaders preach all the time, right? You have to be able to listen to differing opinions and to people who are telling you that you're wrong, and be able to act upon, those differing opinions and those new ideas. And again, I fear we're obviously at a very junior level. We don't see what all of our leaders see. So there are a lot of things that they have to worry about that we'll never understand. But from where you and I sit, I think we would both agree that there are a lot of things that are not being acted upon that should be. So it is frustrating, but
yeah, and I would add there's a lot of things that, and I'm just going to speak from like our community at least, there's a lot of energy going places that it doesn't need to.
Yeah.
Right? 100%. And it can be reallocated somewhere else more impactful.
Inefficiency, right? We are an incredibly inefficient organization. If we were a Fortune 500 company out there in the world actually trying to make a profit or turn around a new product that people want, we would fall flat on our face because there's no incentive to be efficient with things at all, which to an extent that's needed, right? Like safety should be paramount in an organization like ours. And you shouldn't always just do the most, time-saving method to certain things. But that excuse can only last for so long, and it can only be applied to so many different facets. So not really sure where I was going with that point, but in general. I have
a couple thoughts.
Yeah.
First, you're going to have a hell of a time on deployment. Oh man. Yeah. Write that statement down and then like journal on it, bro. Like 4 months, you're going to be able to write like a dissertation.
Do you want some of this? No, you're not done yet. I'm going to taste a little.
I did taste it. Not that one, but at the spirits store. Yeah. I tasted a lot there, dude. I was pretty blasted.
Yeah.
For free. It was awesome.
Oh, really? Were they giving out samples?
Dude, it's like a candy store for alcoholics, honestly. It was so cool.
Love that, man.
And like I drove us, backstories, like we went to Sedona from Flagstaff, so it's not a far drive from our home base.
Would I taint this by pouring it in the glass I had my old fashioned in though?
Maybe do a sip from the thing and then put it in there.
Smart. Should I read what you wrote?
I like that the microphone picked up those noises, and yes, you should read it.
It says, "Get fucked, smiley face. Have a good deployment." Cheers, buddy.
Cheers.
You want some?
Not yet.
Right.
Was it good? I don't know.
It's very good.
I like whiskey, but I'm not a smart guy about whiskey.
Nor am I. I got a very average, mediocre knowledge of whiskey, but it tastes good. Smooth. Okay. Didn't make me cough.
Cool.
It's a win.
Yeah, I tried a lot there. They had some like peanut butter whiskeys and the red hot like Fireball, which I learned Screwball and Fireball are not whiskey. They're not whiskeys, which is probably why you gave me that look, because you're like, they're gross. Like, they're not whiskeys. They're vodkas.
They're vodkas?
They're vodkas. Screwball got screwed. They had to remove the word whiskey from their label. It just says Screwball. Wow. And then if you look closely at Fireball, they misspell whiskey.
Do they?
There's no E.
No E. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
something new every day.
The peanut butter and Fireball or like red hot whiskey I had at that shop, I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to taste like. So I bought a peanut butter whiskey. It was fire.
So it was good?
Yeah, it was super good.
Yeah, because Screwball is not good.
No, it's so sweet.
Yeah, it's terrible.
This was like, oh, I can taste peanut butter, but I can also taste like no shit whiskey.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good.
Any thoughts you were starting to say?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. Whiskey tangent, man.
Yeah.
Worthwhile.
Oh, I knew where I was going with this. You were talking about innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Navy was, a non-federal entity.
Yep.
And operating based on its like board of directors or its stakeholders or whatever.
A free market.
Yeah.
Yep.
It would be considerably different. But it also wouldn't be the United States Navy.
Right.
But that's not the point.
Yeah, it's comparing apples to oranges.
So I find it so interesting because as you know, I visited NASA with my boss to try and rekindle, and I don't know the whole history here on if and when they're like the communication relationship, and beyond that, like the actual relationship between the Navy and NASA like dwindled. I do know some of the a factor was that there just weren't a lot of missions for a long time with like manned missions. Cause I remember as a kid, there was like a few maybe. And then there was like a huge hiatus, like well, for us huge, like a decade. That's like almost half our lives at this point. But they're starting to do manned missions again. Yeah. Right. So this coming 2024, they're doing Artemis 2. That has 2 or 3 naval astronauts.
That are naval aviators, right?
Yeah, they're active duty naval aviators that are NASA astronauts. Yeah. Fucking cool.
Super cool.
So I'm, as a Navy PAO for Commander Naval Air Forces, I'm like, let's talk. You know, let's talk about this.
Right.
I also personally find NASA to be awesome, and like the work that they do to be fascinating. It just like brings out the inner child in me, thinking about space and the universe and like the big questions, there's so much unknown. But anyway, I got to, get a tour from the one and only Johnny Kim, and Captain Vic Glover. And
did you met Johnny Kim then?
Yeah,
that's sick.
So, well, I met Johnny Kim at the previous air boss. What did we call it? It wasn't a change of charge, not command, because our new boss is acting air boss.
Got it. Change of charge, right?
But there were Navy Astros there at that ceremony, including Johnny Kim, and that's when I was like, me and my boss had kind of thought about this NASA Navy stuff a little bit, just kind of like spitballing, and they happened to be there, and I was like, oh man, like you gotta introduce me to them, because she knew one of the younger LTs, I think, that deployed with her back in the day. Well, not that far back, because he's still an LT, but because he's like probably an astronaut candidate. Cans, which is funny.
I was gonna say, what are you saying there?
Yeah,
ASCAN. That's awesome.
But anyway, I got a tour from Johnny Kim of the.
He's a Navy SEAL pilot, doctor, astronaut.
Astronaut, yes. And he's like,
so for all you kids out there who don't think that you can do whatever it is that you're dreaming of doing, look at that guy.
Yeah, he's the greatest of all time.
Legit.
And like, he's not done, right? Like, he's a very young guy.
Which is insane. Absolutely insane.
But yeah, I got to tour the NASA facility in Houston for 2 days with these astronauts and with my boss, and meet some of the head honchos, like the director of flight operations, and just talk about what we can do in the Navy to support NASA and what NASA can do to support us, and like how we want to build a stronger relationship. And for my part of this, I'm like, okay, well, how can we talk about it? And talking about it increases awareness, which makes the relationship stronger. Yep. And it is a forcing function for me to talk to more people within NASA. So I'm currently doing that now. Like, it's one of my favorite emails that I get to send every week. Not like it's on a rhythm, but like I'm bugging NASA all the time.
Yeah.
To try and like collaborate on things, coordinate, get messaging alignment, whatever.
Which is cool. Very cool.
Yeah, it's super cool, and it's kind of born out of like something like just a passion project that is truly important to the Navy, to our country, and national interests, not only abroad but like in the galaxies.
Right.
Pretty cool.
100%. I mean, we just stood up Space Force, right? Space is the next frontier, the next potential battlefield.
And what's super neat is Johnny Kim actually is going on. I don't know if it's the first time ever, but he's going on a like the next mission. He's going on the what is it called? It's the Russian capsule. It's like the one that their spacecraft. Yeah, like he's launching from Earth with a cosmonaut.
Right.
In their I can't remember the name of the thing.
Before SpaceX started launching American astronauts a couple years back, we were using Russian rockets for like that 10-year hiatus that you were talking about.
Yeah.
During that hiatus, we were using Russian rockets to get up to the ISS.
Yeah. Isn't that wild?
So wild.
The relationship that we still
absolutely insane. When you think about the geopolitical landscape and like how much we hate Russia and they hate us, the fact that we were sending astronauts onto one of their rockets to go up to space.
Yeah.
Bananas.
It's
a lot
wild.
of people don't know about that.
It's wild. Well, and a lot of people don't know, and they probably will if I have anything to do with it, that Johnny Kim is going up on a mission with a Russian cosmonaut and is like currently training with them. And like that was a topic too, in that the relationship at that level, like we're still lucky and able to like find common interests and mission sets and whatnot,
right.
And like keep some of the other stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
I brought all of this up because I'm also watching a show called For All Mankind on Apple TV, and it's fucking awesome.
I've heard of it. What is that? The one with?
It's a space show.
Is it the Elon Musk one?
No.
What's it about?
I mean, maybe. I hope not. I don't know. It's like an alternate reality. If someone has compared it to me before, to like the Man in the High Castle.
Okay.
But for the space race.
Oh.
So the Russians beat us to the moon.
Oh.
Like actually. And then the space, like we don't give up. Like kind of how we like made it to the moon and like everything stopped.
Yeah.
Like we didn't make it to the moon first. So then we got there second. And then like everything just continued. Just like kept on one-upping each other.
Fascinating. Yeah.
And they're on their 4th season right now actively. So Allie and I just binged the crap out of that show to the point where like yesterday is a Thursday. We were like trying to watch the next episode and it was like, comes out on Friday. We're like,
you're like, no.
Yeah, we're like, holy crap. Like we blazed through this.
We are so spoiled now with streaming TV that anytime we have to wait for an episode to come out, it's like hell on earth.
Yeah.
I'm currently in that predicament with The Crown. Do you watch The Crown?
No, it sounds boring.
I love it. Talk about like history, man.
Old British people talking about things.
But British history is fascinating.
Yeah, I guess.
They're so interesting. Anyways, I digress.
It's not military history, so whatever. Maybe.
They did have, anyways, we don't need to talk about British history anymore. I love America.
Yeah, back to America and Russia. So in For All Mankind, like at a certain point within the show, there is a similar company that pops up to SpaceX and to Blue Origin.
Okay.
So we were talking about how like if the Navy was in a free market and you know could just be run differently, you know, without the bureaucracy, and push innovation and push creativity and truly try to further the human race. And like these private companies in the show, like it's not about America. It's about the human race, and space flight, human space flight and exploration. And, you know, I really like the show because they use a lot of things that are actually happening, but they tell it in a slightly different way. So they like, at first they start on the moon, they build a base on the moon, and then from the moon they go to Mars, which is what Artemis 2 is. They build a base on Mars, and it's like an international space station, but it's on Mars. So like all of these different countries are operating on the same base on Mars. It takes blood to get there. It takes human lives, just like a lot, and like to be expected.
Yep. Any exploration does.
Yeah. If you're like a practical person, you should think that it's going to take some lives probably. But I think it was today or yesterday, I saw an article about Blue Origin, and they put out like a plan to create this, like a donut space station out in space, like a big ring. And it's going to be called like Blue Ring. I think it is. I'm not even joking. Like the Blue Origin and this thing's called like Blue Ring.
Okay.
It's blue something. It has to do with circles. And in the show, they have the same fucking space station.
Yeah.
The same thing. And it's like...
So they got a hack at Blue Origin, and they're just feeding them all their C-suite briefings for the show.
Maybe, but my point was like, in the show and in real life, and to your point, like there are these other companies that are non-governmental that are pushing innovation.
Yeah.
And like, they're the only ones that can do it.
Right.
In the show, like that spacecraft that is pushing innovation is like part of the reason some people live in that show, and the only way that people even get to Mars, even though NASA was there, and so were the cosmonauts.
Right.
Like all three of them were out on the same mission, like racing each other. Literally, it's kind of unrealistic in the show. Yeah. They're like, it's like all spacecrafts, all of them like launched within the same like 3-hour window. Yeah. And they're like tracking each other, and it's like, oh, I can like literally see that spacecraft. Like, no, you fucking can't. Like among all those things, all those stars and lights out there, no way. But so cool, man.
Very cool stuff. Interesting. It is interesting though how the private sector is now leading the way with the space race though, right? It brings up a lot of interesting points for sure. Because, you know, talking about history, right? After the Industrial Revolution, what happened was that in order to be a powerful entity, right, whether that's a country, a company, whatever you want to call it, you had to have a certain level of resources and control of those resources. And only certain nations, i.e. certain governments, were able to consolidate control over all of those resources. So that's why you have these world superpowers pulling away, which caused, you know, World War I, World War II. So like, right, pre-industrial revolution, you could have like a band of rebels in some like, you know, I don't know, random country, right? Before like gunpowder and man of war type ships, right? If you were just savage as hell, you could still beat like the top-notch nation in the world in like an isolated battle, right?
Mongolia.
There you go.
They were fucking gnarly.
They were. Thank you for making my point. But then after the Industrial Revolution, right, that just wasn't the case anymore. Yeah. If a nation rolls up with advanced guns and battleships and aircraft, you're fucked, right? So it became a race to resources. But now that we have a global economy, now you're seeing companies being able to gather the resources, thanks in large part to technology, and they are able to go toe-to-toe with the most powerful governments in the world in terms of producing these very innovative, you know, pieces of technology that yield species-altering results. Yeah. So it's fucking fascinating, man. But it's also interesting too. You said something earlier that made me think, like, I can't remember what exactly it was, but basically NASA and these companies are doing things that are for the good of all mankind, right? Like we're sending our astronauts to Russia to get on their rocket because it's for the good of all mankind, even though we don't like each other on...
That's the name of the show.
For all mankind?
Yeah, literally.
Right, there you go. But when you look at the Navy or any of the military branches, we don't exist for the good of all mankind.
Nope, it's not the mission.
We exist for the good of our allies and the good of the American people. And we actively talk about and train to destroy other parts of mankind. So it's an interesting concept to think about, because I think that key attribute, which is necessary for any military, right? Like that's the whole point of having a military, is to fight and win wars. Yeah. But the whole purpose of their existence is what's going to hold them back from ever like having the kind of like, I don't know, species altering importance that they used to.
Box, right?
Well, that too.
You
absolutely.
Can't think outside of the box if you're like your box is your mission.
Yeah.
Right. And why would we think outside of the mission?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of layers to that too, but, and all this goes to say, I do still very much love where we're from. I think our people are great people. I think that our nation is a great nation. And I think that what we are doing does more good than bad, for sure. I
would
feel
agree.
I feel like that needs to be said after all the hate we've been dishing on the Navy over the course of the last 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, man. There's a lot of very deep questions that I think are in the minds of a lot of people. And it makes a lot of what we do more difficult sometimes.
Definitely. Also, something I think needs to be said is that we absolutely look like the stereotypical Navy officer.
We do.
You were like,
we do.
Earlier, like you're diverse and like you bring diversity to the Navy. I'm like, anyone that would actually see this would be like, what are you talking about?
Well, to that, I would counter. Yes, we're in the military, so we have to have clean cut faces, clean cut, haircuts. But I have seen a picture of you in your younger years, and you did not look like you look now.
Yeah, it's true. I looked like Tarzan.
You did. And I was also referring to your, your personality and your ideas and your thoughts.
Yeah.
That those are more diverse than the average naval officer.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to this day that like sets me apart from the absolute majority of probably the DOD is that I'm a plant-based eater through and through.
Oh, 100%.
Like
you and I, when we first met, we got into it like within the first 10 minutes.
It was one of the more like constructive discussions for sure.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, that and like, I was a yoga teacher before the Navy. Like those two things, like yoga teacher plus vegan equals Navy officer. Like that's just not the formula.
Not typically.
So like, yeah, that's the diversity for those who are like, that's a white dude. What are you talking about?
Yes. Thank you for clarifying. 100%. Yeah, man. It's interesting. We got a cool job though. I think, to your point earlier, you said how we have access to a lot of senior leaders at a very junior level, which is something I've enjoyed about this career field for sure. It's, being PAOs is, you get to kind of peek behind the curtain, so to speak, in a lot of ways that other people at our same rank and experience level just do not get. So that's pretty neat as well. But I think that it's a double-edged sword because it shows us how the system works, right? Because we get to see, we sit in on these briefings with admirals and senior leaders, so we see how they operate and how they think, and we get to see how the whole enterprise works, how this big machine that is the DoD works. But then we're so junior that it's like, we can't really do anything about it.
You can't do anything.
No.
You can make a recommendation and you'll most likely get shot down.
Yep. So it's almost like ignorance is bliss, but we're not ignorant anymore. So we're not blissful anymore.
Well, and we're like, we are, you and I at least are passionate people, and we want to do the right thing always. Mm-hmm. And we want to accomplish whatever our mission is. And we just don't have like the influence that we wish we had sometimes. Yeah. And that's just the reality of it. But that's where relationship building comes in. For sure. And you definitely can feed the lieutenant commanders in the room your influence, hopefully. I mean, that was like the nature of my experience on deployment was just being lucky in that some of my roommates were important planners for the strike group, the Desron.
Nice. Yeah.
Without them, I wouldn't have been able to do like anything.
Really?
I would have felt so more disenfranchised than I already felt.
Yeah.
If I didn't happen to have like two of the most junior but powerful planners on the Desron staff and the whiskey or the cruiser, right? So
were they 04s?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
They're 04s and I was an ensign.
Yeah.
Like brand new.
That doesn't happen.
But also them like recognizing when I didn't get like the recognition or like the empowerment from my leadership, or like the trust in the way that like felt good. It was more like, I trust you to get it done because, like, if I were my boss at the time, like, because I'm scared it won't get done and I know you'll get it done. Like, it just wasn't like a good, like, you're doing great.
Right.
Like, keep it up. It was like a, just not positive and mostly toxic. But the planners I was with, those guys, like, definitely validated the way I felt and the experiences I was having and had the same questions I had. Because I was so junior at the time, like not just in rank, like in knowledge,
right.
like in how the hell I'm supposed to do my job, how the rank structure works, who I belong to, who and what, who I should be talking to get things done. And like, should I be jumping my 04 boss? Like, like, should I be going around them to get things done? But it's so hard to navigate when you don't know any of it and you don't have help within your office.
Yeah. And then throw on top of that, living on a ship for the first time and just getting used to normal Navy customs and courtesies.
Literally living.
Because you were in the Navy, what, like less than a year before you deployed, right?
I commissioned in April. Yeah. I commissioned in April and we had Com2X in November and deployed in January.
That's insane.
And like,
that's a tough.
And to your point, I had not even been in the Navy a year yet. And I was advising a 1-star admiral, a bunch of captains.
I did the math on Com2X. If you were to add up all the personnel, right, in a strike group, which is what, for those who don't understand, you were acting as the number one PAO for a portion of the deployment, essentially, for a carrier strike group, which comprises of about 6,000 to 7,000 Navy sailors.
Yes.
5 different ships and
warships,
mind you, and about 75 naval aircraft. In totality, those assets are worth, I added up, I want to say it was like 50 billion. That sounds low.
It sounds low, but it doesn't matter.
Whatever.
I can't fathom what that is. You need to send me these numbers.
Billions upon billions of dollars, 6,000 to 7,000 lives. If you were to translate that into corporate America, that's like one of the top 3 companies in the world in terms of size and, just total assets under management.
Yeah. I tried to convey that on my LinkedIn.
On the job.
I tried, but I think you just put it way better.
Yeah.
I need to put that definition on my LinkedIn.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. That's insane. And think about where I'm at now, right?
Yeah.
I just went to that command's boss.
Yep.
Not just that command, all of those.
All the commands like that, which there are 12 of them in the Navy, they report to the command that you're now at.
Technically, I'm like number 2, maybe 3 PAO for all of it.
Right.
Wild.
It is wild.
And I'm like 5 years old. It's insane.
It's a unique job, man. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a very unique job. I think JAGs have it similar to us, at least in my experience so far on the carrier strike group. But they also have law degrees and are much smarter than us.
Way smarter. I think they have it worse.
They might have it worse. They do have more responsibility than us too.
Yeah. Like when something bad happens, like they have a lot of work.
Yeah.
We have less. We have work, but less.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I just couldn't imagine.
There are also much bigger repercussions if they don't do their job well than us. So they probably have it the worst. But I would say we're second, man, in terms of just like the amount of responsibility thrust upon our junior ranks.
Oh yeah. And well, even senior, because like half the time, if there's an issue that doesn't fall into the box of like an air ops planner or I don't know, or like specifically the F-18 planner, the Osprey planner, like whichever platform planner or like, safety or legal or, I don't know, the front office people. If it like doesn't fall into one of those boxes, it's like, it's a PAO's thing. Like it doesn't matter what it is. It's like on the carrier, right? This is clearly an IT issue. When the movies like have issues playing, and they call the fucking PAO to fix it at midnight or like at 2 a.m. because some dude somewhere on this ship of 5,000 people is like, oh my God,
PAO.
Lone Survivor, which I've seen 30,000 times, is stuck on repeat of like the same 6 seconds or something. And it's like, the PAO needs to get up and fix that.
Dude, the worst was AFN, right? Yeah. Who is a entity not on the ship that we have nothing to do with, right? They're a media broadcast company specifically
Armed Forces Network.
Armed Forces Network. They're basically a media company that specifically caters towards the military.
Well, they're staffed by service members.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Okay. But anyways, they're not on the fucking carrier. They're nowhere near the carrier. And they're playing a football game that wasn't the game everybody wanted to watch on the ship. But who do they call to complain about it? Yeah. They called media.
Yeah. And you're like, okay.
Sorry.
I also don't want to watch this game.
That was the exact answer we gave.
Yeah.
If I could fix it, I would.
What was the game?
Everyone wanted to watch the SEC championship, and they had like Boise and some other random.
Probably San Diego State.
Was it?
I think so.
I think it was last weekend or 2 weekends ago. Gosh. But yeah, good times, good times. Anyways, we've been talking a long ass time, dude. Is there anything else that you want to put out there for the public to see before we talk shit off camera?
I don't know, man. There's like, I could talk to you about a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, we can.
I don't know. I think one thing we didn't touch on that's really important for people in the Navy, in the military, and not, like literally anyone. Mental health. Like, I think I've just had such a drastic difference in my outlook and optimism, like from the day to day, since I think truly, like I was thinking about this on the drive over here. Like the last time I saw you was early October, maybe.
Was it?
When I ran into you on the ship, on the pier.
Oh, yeah. That's right, because I was just about to leave.
Yeah.
No, early October.
It was before Halloween. It was before Halloween.
Yeah, it was like mid-October.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right, because I was going to come to your Halloween party. Sorry if I
Yeah, then you didn't.
Sorry. I was a little stressed.
That's okay. I was not in a good way. Like the majority of time that you've known me, I have not been in a good way. I haven't been like me.
Yeah.
After deployment, like I just was not the same. I don't think I was the same after OCS, honestly. And then deployment just like really took it out of me and affected me in ways that I don't think I was fully aware of. And after, some therapy, not like a lot, like, I don't know, I probably did it less than a dozen times. But it was certainly helpful. And through her recommendation of trying certain medications, which although I grew up with a doctor as a dad, like I don't take Advil.
Yeah.
Like I don't really take a lot of medicine.
Yeah.
Over the counter drugs. Like the only things I really take are steroids. No, I'm just kidding. No, is like, I don't know, cold and flu medicine when I'm like dying.
Right.
Other than that, like nothing. Or when I broke my jaw, like pain meds at the time.
Yeah.
And then I remember like being like really hesitant to do it. I was like, I'll only do it until I stop like crying every day because it hurts so bad. Which was, I don't know, like 5 days post-op, 6 days, maybe a week. And then I was able to just like take Advil and Tylenol.
Yeah.
And they just kept prescribing me pain meds. And I was like, no, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Like, get that shit away from me. I know what this does to people.
Yeah. Good on you.
But The medicine, I don't know. Like I had a lot of stigma on SSRIs and just like antidepressant, anxiety medicine. I didn't have a stigma towards therapy or towards seeking help, or admitting that, or at least like, I think it's not like an admission, it's a recognition of having, like a mental health, I'll just call it a disadvantage, because it's not cut and dry. And I might be diagnosed with like PTSD or depression or anxiety, but it's not cut and dry. It's all like on a spectrum.
100%.
But through NPACE, our command, my old command, your current command, we had multiple mental health stand downs. And I think the first time around, I was like, I don't need it, I'm good. And then I went to deployment, and I was like, okay, maybe I do need it. And that was one of the times, actually, you might have been sitting there in it when I actually gave like a little bit of a brief on like the growth mindset and
virtually.
Virtually, about the growth mindset and like how I use meditation on deployment and breathing techniques and Wim Hof and mindfulness, really, to try and maintain homeostasis on deployment, and then even coming back, trying to just not be so anxious and stressed out all the time about nothing. And it really took the medication to like solve it. I've heard lots of, like, I'm on Lexapro and Wellbutrin, which is like the most common shit out there. And I've heard so many people that I know that have taken it, and they're like, yeah, it's helpful, but I had this happen to me, like some side effect that they didn't like, right? I haven't had any issues at all, none at all. And literally within like a week, maybe a week and a half, I just like woke up one day and was like, I'm optimistic. Like, I swear to God, dude, I like came home from work and like talked to Allie, my girlfriend, and was like, like, I feel really good about this. Like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't remember what it was about. Like, about the Navy, about rugby, about like fucking you name it. I just wasn't as stressed out. And I just think it's worth mentioning that, we see a lot of this stuff in the news about the Navy and mental health and suicides and all these things, but I've truly only ever seen positivity around seeking help in the Navy. Like, I've never seen any negative stigma around it. Like, I've seen stigma around people themselves not wanting to recognize it in themselves.
Yeah.
But I've never seen leadership, hurt the careers of people, or tell them to like, figure it out, or like it's not a problem, or you're making it up or whatever. Like, I see the operational reports that come in. Like, there's suicidal ideations every day, every day. Whether or not they're true, like, I don't know. I'm just reading a report. But the point is, all of these people are referred to like Navy Medical. Yeah. They all go to Naval Base San Diego or the NASNY Medical or Balboa. Like, I see it every single day. And everybody has these opportunities to go. But the news only reports, and like, as PAOs, like, I think we need to do a better job about stating like how we are, how there's, most people have, I think, not only the access to get pharmaceutical drugs that are, in my case, beneficial. I got therapy for free, out in town. I didn't have to go to a Navy therapist. Like, I got all the resources that I needed pretty easily. I mean, it was kind of a pain in the butt working through MHS Genesis, but like, we don't talk about it enough. And I think like I am grateful, because I don't know if I would be I would have these issues if I wasn't in the Navy. Yeah. Right. But like, I don't think I'd be able to afford these resources if I wasn't in the Navy as well. I know people who have similar problems who are not in the military, and they can't afford therapy. Can't do it. And like BetterHelp or like those weird little, offshoots of therapy aren't helpful.
Yeah. For all the
Yeah.
institutional flaws that we have, I would agree with you that we do try and take care of our people in a very effective way. The old days, if you will, not that we would know because we weren't around for them, but the old days of, just to like suck it up and keep on keeping on kind of mindset definitely seem to have been stamped out for the most part, at least in my experience. And it sounds like yours as well. Now that's not to say, obviously the job is stressful regardless of how much you care about your people. But to your point, they seem to have done a good job at trying to address the problems that result from that stress. I would say I haven't had quite as good of experience as you. There's a very slow, my big issue is it's pretty specific. It's if you don't have suicidal ideations and you seek mental help, it's very, very slow to get any kind of response. At least it has been in my experience. I've tried a couple times, and again, there's no real sense of urgency unless you say the words, right? So that's kind of my one critique. But in general, like you said, the access that we have to healthcare, albeit inefficient and slow sometimes, is still pretty extensive, and obviously it is free to us. So use the resources, people. Use them because we got them. Even if it takes a while, just keep on beating the drum. Did you say enlist?
I did. Enlist and you get medical benefits.
Join now. 3 square meals a day, a bed.
You actually get 4 if you're on deployment.
True. Mid-rats. Haven't had mid-rats yet, though.
You will.
Yeah, I know.
Make sure you work out a lot, dude. Don't get fat.
No. Never.
That's something I did want to talk to you about. I mean, we can do it offline, but I was like, in my head, like, we need to talk about deployment and how you're preparing for it, and goals that you need to set for yourself. Like there's like mental and physical goals outside of the job that you need to, you don't need to, but I'd recommend you do to stay sane and healthy.
For sure. We should do another show after I get back to do like the whole pre-deployment prep kind of thing. But we can talk offline about it because I'm curious to pick your brain, because now that I have a little bit of a taste, I want to run some things by.
Yeah. I hope you come back smiling and not all like a sad puppy. Sad pandas.
You too, buddy. You too. Well, thanks for doing this, dude. We'll wrap this up, but appreciate it, man.
Sweet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. All right. Deuces.